You're listening to Mercy Calling, a podcast presenting prophetic guidance by the scholars and teachers at Dar al-Turath al-Islami in Cape Town, South Africa. This podcast is brought to you by Seekers Hub Global. You can subscribe to this podcast and all of our other podcasts on iTunes, Google Play, and on our website, seekershub.fm. Visit seekershub.org for free online courses, our reliable answer service, and engaging media.
وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم طهر قلوبنا من النفاق وأعمالنا من الرياء وألسنتنا من الكذب وأعيننا من الخيانة فإنك تعلم خائنة الأعين وما تخفي الصدور. اللهم اهدنا لأحسن الأخلاق والأعمال لا يهدي لأحسنها إلا أنت واصرف عنا سيئها لا يصرف عنا سيئها إلا أنت يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First I have to apologize for Maulana Abdul Rahman. Maulana is leaving for Hajj inshallah. So he got a few things he has to see to. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant him khayrat and barakat. So I'll be standing in. Maybe not the right person, but they asked me today if I could quickly stand in and I quickly went to go see if I could get some information in the books and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide us. The Sahabi that they asked me to speak about was Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr. The first thing is what we need to know is who's Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr. The first thing is Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr was a young Sahabi. So a Sahabi is normally somebody that met the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He believed in the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and some Sahabas they had some quite time with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some Sahabas the age were more or less the same age of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abdullah ibn Zubayr was a bit young. And the reason for that is, give me a mouth, let me put off my phone quickly. The reason for that is, he was the firstborn of the muhajirin that came from Makka. What does that mean? So when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the people of Makkah, when they made hijrah from Makkah to Medina, so the people of Medina was called al-Ansar, and the people of Makkah was called the muhajirin. So sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when they made hijrah from Makkah to Medina, they were called the muhajirin. So for the first one, or the first Sahabi, or the first mawlud, the first baby that was born from the muhajirin in Madinatul Munawwara after the hijrah basically was Abdullah ibn Zubayr. And his story is that his mother entered al-Madinatul Munawwara, and before they entered al-Madinatul Munawwara they went through Quba. We all know Quba in al-Madinatul Munawwara, for those that visited al-Madinatul Munawwara. And she's at her last, she stays a bit there, and she gives birth in al-Quba. But this is after remember what happened also here is, the Yahud, there's a time that the Yahud said that, they made so much bad. They had a bad eye actually on the Muslimin, because they said the Muslimin, no one is going to give birth of them from the muhajirin. So when Abdullah ibn Zubayr, is almost like he broke the ice. So there was no baby coming from the muhajirin. And when Abdullah ibn Zubayr came, he broke the ice. Now the first thing is, who's Abdullah ibn Zubayr? Abdullah ibn Zubayr is the son of a great Sahabi. from a Sahabi that became Muslim. We're speaking about his father now. His father was a Sahabi that became Muslim from the first people. Some would say that he's the fourth person that became Muslim, or the fifth person that became Muslim. And his name is Zubayr ibn al-Awwam. And Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, he was, look at his father alone. His father was Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, and he was one of the people, Ahad al-Mubashirin bil-Jannah. He was one of the people that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave them glad tidings to Jannah already. Basically, you got a certificate on this dunya already, that you don't worry, you're already in the Jannah. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us from the understanding and the anwar and the barakat. So that was his father firstly. His father was a great personality. His father, so much so that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam made a statement. In the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, لِكُلِّ نَبِيٍّ حَوَارِيٍّ. For every prophet there's a hawari, is like a apostle, somebody that sticks to him, that will stay with him, that will always be with him, a murid. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, وَحَوَارِيِّ al-Zubayr. And my hawari is Zubayr. Zubayr ibn Awwam, this is the father of Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr. The thing that increases beauty on top of that is Zubayr ibn al-Awwam got married to whom? He got married to the daughter of Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. Who was also married to the daughter of Sayyidina Abu Bakr? Our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was married to the one daughter, which was Sayyidatina Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha, and al-Zubayr was got married to the other daughter, and her name was Asma, bint Abu Bakr. Asma, the daughter of Abu Bakr. So Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr that we're speaking about today, his auntie is Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha. That is his auntie. And his uncle, in a way, is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And his grandfather is Sayyidina Abu Bakr. His mother is the daughter of Sayyidina. You know, this alone, who he is in his lineage alone is a great personality. So his mother was also Asma bint Abu Bakr, was known as Dhatun Nitaqayn. What does Dhatun Nitaqayn mean? The two belts, or the two straps. So the story behind it is Asma bint Abu Bakr, when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam made hijrah, the Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, before they made hijrah, they went to go hide in the cave. We all know the story. So when they went to hide in the cave, Abu Jahl, he came to the house of Abu Bakr, Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. And remember, Asma was young that time. Asma was very young. It could be just above 10, 12, somewhere there around 13. And she was young because she was married already. She was young and she was married already. But she was a youngster she was young, and she basically, not matured really, but she was young. And Abu Jahl came to the door, knocking on the door. Abu Jahl tells her, "Where's your father, Abu Bakr?" And she says, "Why do you want to know where's my father?" And Abu Jahl smacks her, that, the mark stays on her face. And she's, still a youngster. Abu Bakr smacks her. Abu Jahl smacks her so hard that the mark stays on her face. She answers for Abu Jahl. And Abu Jahl was who? Abu Jahl was the one that everybody feared. And she, as the daughter of Abu Bakr, she tells Abu Jahl, didn't you find any men to hit so that you had to come hit a woman? And when she told Abu Jahl that, Abu Jahl, she's actually right, and he left. But that nitaqain comes in. When the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Sayyidina Abu Bakr were in the cave, she used to take part of her shawl, or some would say part of her clothes. She used to tear it. And take it in context, doesn't mean she tore her awrah open. No, she used to tear a part of it to make a rope, so that the water is basically like a sling that the water could hang on it, and the food could hang on it, and then she used to throw it over her shoulders basically. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam called her Dhatun Nitaqain. Is basically, she's a witty woman. She thinks quick. She makes a plan. She's there now. She don't still go look for something for quick. She just took a part of her, part of her clothes, tore it, made a strap, and there she went off to bring the food for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and her father. And remember, I don't know if those people went up those mountains already. Those people that went for Umrah and for Hajj, if you climb those mountains, it's not an easy task to get up there. It's not easy. Now imagine a young girl, maybe at the age of 20 something. She's going up this mountain like for breakfast, and at night she comes again back. So it's like a normal thing, and it's not near Makka as well. It's a distance, and that was the unf that she had, and that was the youth for the Islam that these people made. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us from the khairat and barakat, and to grant us from that understanding as well. So that was the mother, and that was the father. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr, we don't need to speak about. We're going to start speaking about Sayyidina Abu Bakr. We're going to speak all night. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us from that understanding. So Asma bint Abu Bakr, when she entered Al-Madinah, she gave birth in Quba, we said. She gave birth in Quba. The first thing she did is, she took this baby, remember, no name now, no name, nothing. The first thing she did is, she took the baby straight to our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam takes the baby. The first thing that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did is, he spat in the baby's mouth. And Asma bint Abu Bakr, she narrates this in Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, she says the first thing that entered Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr's mouth was the saliva of sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that alone is something unique. The saliva of him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imagine, before drinking milk, before anything, the saliva of him sallallahu alaihi wasallam enters the body of this beautiful baby. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam then asks for dates. He make tahniq. And we know what is tahniq. And this is actually a sunnah for us to make also when our children are born, to make tahniq, and that is we do it in a slight, also kind of a sunnah where we take sugar. But the proper way is actually to take a date and put it in your mouth. You soften the date with your mouth, and you put that saliva of the date in the mouth of the baby. And obviously, if you ask those people to do it, it must either be either the father or don't get somebody that and preferably somebody salih, somebody that is salah, because there are certain things that are transferred from there. It's not just the saliva that transfers, But you get people, they are constantly in dhikr, they are constantly remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there are certain barakah in whatever they give over. And so, when you ask people to do that, ask, good people to do it. So, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he did, and there is scientifically also, and I think we know about this, scientifically it has been proven also, if the first thing of the baby, if you put in the baby's mouth the first thing, a sweet thing, then there is, it boosts his immune system, it boosts his, it becomes better, his memory also on a later stage. And sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did that long time already, it became a sunnah from that time. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam then takes the tahniq, or take the date and make tahniq for him, for Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr. Then sallallahu alayhi wa sallam asked his grandfather, which is Sayyidina Abu Bakr, to make adhan in his ears, in iqamah. So that's also a sunnah. So adhan and iqamah is a sunnah. We normally if we give name, we do it there at the name giving. But for the parents, they're supposed to do it actually. So alhamdulillah, we do it, we make the qiraat to show that the sunnah, we confirming the sunnah, but the proper way is to make maybe the tahniq, take a date with you, if your wife or so give birth, give your wife also, dates, because it's good for the birth. And it's been proven in the Quran, it comes that Sayyidatina Maryam, she laid under the palm tree, and Allah Ta'ala made dates fall upon her. Why? And now they discover that if a person eats dates, or a female that eats dates when she's giving birth, it makes easier, gives her strength, makes easier the birth. And so take a date with, give your wife, and also if the baby comes out, inshallah, give the baby as well a part of and don't give the baby the date, because some of us they already want our baby must be already, a big person. Remember that baby didn't eat anything yet. So you and try that hard pieces of the date, take the soft pieces of the date, and then chew it fine, and then put it in his mouth and say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim with the niyyah that this is a sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then obviously when they give his name again on the 7th day, then the Imam will do it again, we'll just reaffirm it inshallah. So that is how Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr got his name. And his name is behind whose name? Behind whose name? What was his grandfather's name? Abu Bakr. But what Abu Bakr means, the father of Bakr, like Abu Hurairah, the father of the kittens. But Abu Hurairah's name wasn't really Abu Hurairah. They only preferred those names because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam called him that names. Abu Hurairah's name was Abdurrahman ibn Sakhr. See, Abdurrahman is a beautiful name. But some of them, just imagine, a beautiful name like Abdurrahman. They prefer the name that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam called him, Abu Hurairah. I mean, does it make sense? Abu Hurairah, the father of kittens. Where is the difference? But because sallallahu alaihi wasallam called me Abu Hurairah, that is the most beloved name to me. And from there, people always called him Abu Hurairah. That today, if you had to ask people who's Abu Hurairah, they know who's it. Ask him who's Abdurrahman ibn Sakhr. Who is that person? You understand? So it shows that sometimes what sallallahu alaihi wasallam chooses for you, it is best for you. And not that also, they came to like that. Although it didn't make sense for them, but they came to like that. And that is the attitude that we should adopt, inshallah. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us understanding. And sallallahu alayhi wa sallam afterwards, when he was a youngster, so we said his name was Abdullah, following the name of We said it now? Abu Bakr. So Sayyidina Abu Bakr's name was Abdullah ibn Abi Quhafa. Now, so Sayyidina Abu Bakr's name was Abdullah. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave him the name of his grandfather, Abdullah, the mother of, or the father of Asma, bint Abu Bakr. Now, and when he was young already, now there's many Sahabas, they took bay'ah with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he was young, Sayyidina Abu Hurairah, him with the youngsters, brought him to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he told the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that make them take bay'ah with you. Imagine a youngster. Now on this age already, sallallahu alaihi wasallam spat in his mouth, made tahniq for him, gave his name. You know, he was somebody that was norming. He was so much in the house of Sayyidatina Aisha, or so much in the house of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Sayyidatina Aisha got the nickname through him. So they used to call Sayyidatina Aisha Abdullah, the mother of Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr, which is correct. Abdullah, the mother of Abdullah. So if you hear Sayyidatina Aisha was called Abdullah, and Sayyidatina Aisha didn't have any children, how does it make sense? Then you must know where it comes from. It's because Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr was a youngster. Sayyidatina Aisha was his auntie. And it was a norm, okay, this is my auntie, in and out of the house of Prophet. That's so much so that he was called, and he loved Sayyidatina Aisha so much so that he was called, that Sayyidatina Aisha was called Abdullah, the mother of Abdullah. Now, and when they were youngsters, Sayyidina Abu Bakr brought a few youngsters, and he was one of them, and brought them to come take bay'ah of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, take the allegiance with the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this is a great deal, because young, you know, a young Sahabi. So take in consideration, if Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr was born on the first year of Hijrah, some riwayah, this is the second year of Hijrah. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away in which year of Hijrah? The 11th year of Hijrah. So then how old was he? Was more or less, say 10 years old, 10 to 11 years old. The most, I think, 11 years old, when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. So he was a youngster of 11 years old when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. And that's why we say he was from the young Sahabis, not from the old ones, or the one that was from the time of Makka with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But with that he didn't spend so much time with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was a great Sahabi. With his young age and his youngness, he was a great Sahabi. That so much so, there's a story that they say Sayyidina Umar, in the Khilafah of Sayyidina Umar. Now, Sayyidina Umar was somebody that was, he was firm, and everybody used to fear Sayyidina Umar. If Shaitan used to run away from Sayyidina Umar, it's not, don't find it strange if youngsters run away from Sayyidina Umar. So, if you find that they say that Sayyidina Umar came once and the youngsters were playing, and Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr was amongst them, and obviously now the youngsters, they're running away because Sayyidina Umar is coming down the road. So Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr is standing, and Sayyidina Umar tells him that Sayyidina Umar gets down. Not because Sayyidina Umar wants them to run away, but Sayyidina Umar is like, astonished myself with this youngsters. Because Sayyidina Umar sometimes see how the youngsters run, and So he sees Abdullah ibn Zubayr still stands. And he asks Abdullah ibn Zubayr, why didn't you run with the other children away? So he tells, now see his firmness at that time, he says that, I didn't commit any wrong by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I should run away. And also, the road is not very narrow, so I should run away and give place for you, but there's over enough space. Then Sayyidina Umar said, no, this youngster, this youngster say, what the youngster? And Sayyidina Umar made beautiful dua for him. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam already made dua for him. And remember, we said that Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr, how young was he? He was at the age of, say, 10 years old when the Prophet Muhammad passed away. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's a beautiful story that Sallallahu alaihi wasallam made hijama. Hijama is the cupping. Now normally cupping is, it's like filthy blood that you pull from beneath your skin. So it's blood that is there now for a while. So they pull that blood out so that the body can, pump again the new blood that comes with new oxygens, new vitamins in again, and that is how it heals quicker. And that is also a sunnah to make hijama. Not the dry cupping, but the wet cupping, actually pulling the blood out. So Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam pulls his blood out, and he gives it for who? As we say, Abdullah ibn Zubayr is in the house, out the house, always around. He gives it for Abdullah ibn Zubayr to go throw away. And now Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam tells him, throw it where people don't see it. Abdullah ibn Zubayr takes the blood, he's gone. He comes back, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam asks him, Abdullah, what did you do with the blood? He says, Rasulullah, I drank the blood. Sallallahu. And this is ajib. This is ajib. So already, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam spat in his mouth. Now he's drinking the blood of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam made a statement with him, and Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told him then that fire will never touch your body. In another riwayah, where Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told him that if my blood is going to mix with your blood, then fire is haram upon you. Because what happens, the creation, it's haram for creation to eat the bodies of the Anbiya. Let alone the bodies of the Salihin and the Shuhada, and that we're speaking about the Anbiya. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it haram upon them, any creation. And now we can understand of, Sayyidina Yaqub, Nabi Yunus. Those the ayah says, لولا فلولا أنه كان من المسبحين. If Nabi Yunus was not from those people that made tasbih, للبث في بطنه, he would have stayed in the belly of the whale, إلى يوم يبعثون. Meaning, he would probably have died. But that whale wouldn't be able to digest that body of that Nabi. And just like that, when they came to Nabi Yaqub, the brothers of Nabi Yusuf, when they came to him and they told him that the wolf ate him, you think Nabi Yaqub believed them? Why did Nabi Yaqub always have that yearning that they're all going to come back to him one day? Because he knew it's impossible for a wolf to eat the body of the Anbiya. The only people that killed Anbiya really was who? Now, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant the people of Palestine salamat inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيَقْتُلُونَ الْأَنْبِيَاءَ بِغَيْرِ حَقٍّ. They used to kill the Anbiya without any valid reason. And they used to, the things they used to say against the Anbiya is, subhanallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for understanding. And so Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr, with his growing up in the house of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just that few years, he became somebody that was very, very, very attached to this deen, and somebody that was attached to ibadah a lot. So much so, they say that normally there's something that we call in siyam al-wisal. Now for us it's not permissible. Al-wisal fi siyam. Al-wisal is if you fast continuously. So basically, I fast, I start now Fajr. Then it comes Maghrib, I don't break my fast. Then I just go on 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Can you do that? It sounds a bit impossible. So there was a time that sallallahu alaihi wasallam did it. The Sahaba then saw the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam doing it. So sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard about this, that they are trying to make wisal like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is making wisal. Basically fasting continuously without breaking fast. So sallallahu alaihi wasallam came out to them and told them that you should break your fast, and you shouldn't do it because my fasting is different than your fasting. And sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him that innama yut'imuni rabbi wa yasqin. I have been fed by my Lord, and I get sustenance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's different than you people. You're going to finish yourself off. I'm different to you. So if we think, so there are so many riwayat of Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr that used to make wisal in his siyam. They say sometimes he used to go a week. Imagine a week. There's some that says 3 days he used to go without eating anything. And then the narrator still says that. And the third day when he breaks his fast, then he's the strongest of all of us. It's not like that he's finished. But he's understood because the one that spat, that gave him that power, came from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He got blood from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you can imagine that body, it's running through the power of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's not impossible. So if the Sahaba make statements like this, and they say, how is it possible? Then it is because it was driven through that nur and the taqwa of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that was his fasting. The salah of Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr, they say he was someone, if he got into his salah, he would cut himself off from anything else. They say so much so that once in his house, that he started his salah. And he's somebody that if his salah is long. It's not like us. Alhamdulillah, as ek voor die boete staan, dan sal ek lang. En as ek in die huis salah, dan is it, then it's a quick salah. No. Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr is standing in salah, and he's at home. And a snake falls from the roof. And they say there were a baby, or one of his babies were there. And the people in the house is going on and going on, and trying to catch the snake and hitting the snake and going on. So much so until they came to kill the snake, they found that Abdullah ibn Zubayr is still standing like he's standing, not moving anyway. Imagine a snake of my son. A snake is, he's standing on his place. And when he was finished salah, he didn't know of what happened. So much attachment he had in salah. And there's other riwayat about, they say something fell in the masjid of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from the roof. But the way it fell, they explain that something broke. As it fell, it shocked. And it just went past his throat. It just went past his throat basically. And everybody was like, but he was in his salah. Didn't care anything. He didn't care. It's like those people when they get connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those sahabas, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us that connection in the salah. If they get connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's like they forget everything. They forget everything. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us that, because that is the thing that, that connection in the salah is very important. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us that, because the salah is the first thing that we're going to be questioned on the day of Yawm al-Qiyamah. They say there was a time also once that the Kaaba, it happened now recently also. Which year was it when the Kaaba was, the flood around the Kaaba? If anybody knows. That they say people actually swam around the Kaaba. Okay, inshallah we can get that date. But there was a time, there's photos of us as well. But there was a time also in the time of the Tabi'een when it happened. And they say one of the people that actually swam around the Kaaba was Abdullah ibn Zubayr. So he didn't worry, he was a person of tawaf, he was a person of ibadah. Even if there's a flood, he still goes on with his ibadah. So he was swimming around the Kaaba. And normally the Arabs don't know how to swim. I'm talking about especially the Bedouin Arabs. They're not, because there's no sea really near them. And that's why the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ gave me actually a sunnah that to teach your children how to swim, yes. But Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr, he was there, it was in him already. SubhanAllah. And he was also from those people that wrote the Quran. So basically you copy the Quran. That time they didn't have like the printers that we have today. We make Qurans, you put the Quran on the one side and it comes a Quran. It comes 3 or 5 Qurans on the other side, no? That people had to physically take the Quran and write the Quran down. So in Sayyidina Uthman's time, Sayyidina Uthman, he elected certain people to copy the Quran. Now, to copy the Quran is not easy, because you must be very careful, because not to make mistakes. So from those people that he elected was Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr. And imagine, from that came Qur'ans, and from that came Qur'ans until today. You got our Qur'ans, it is filled, the whole dunya is filled with Qur'ans, but who's getting the reward? Those people. People that copied the Quran with hands, and that is not far-fetched. I mean, I got my Shaykh that is in Al-Azhar now, they speak about the time that there wasn't, people used to copy with their hand. They used to copy books with their hand. They used to write over with their hand, and that is, so it's not something that is very, very far. So Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr was one of the people that Sayyidina Uthman elected to copy the Quran and write the Qurans. And subhanallah, just imagine that reward that person is still getting. And then he's a bit of his looks is that Abdullah ibn Zubayr was somebody, he was a bit, I'm going to say, he wasn't very chubby, he was thin. Obviously you can understand the way he fasted. He was somebody that was very, was not very tall, and he had a light beard. He didn't have a thick beard, a full. His beard was very light. And also, they say, some of the narrations say his beard was yellowish of color. So when a person thinks of yellowish of color, it's more like, to reddish, I think. And that we all understand. If we say, you get people with black beards, you get people with red beards, then we get people with grey beards, and we get people with a bit more to the yellowish side of beards, and they say his beard was like that. Abdullah ibn Zubayr. And there's a time that the Roman Empire, is a time that the Roman Empire fought the Muslimin. And the Roman Empire took part of the top of Africa, or the northern of Africa. And there was a great king that time there as well. And that king, unfortunately, they couldn't defeat that king. And to cut the story short is, Sayyidina Uthman then sent Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr with his army to help those Muslimin there. And when Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr came there, he came up with a plan. And he personally killed that king, chopped off his head and brought his head out. And then they won the battle. And when he came back, Sayyidina Uthman, he told Sayyidina Uthman the story, and Sayyidina Uthman told him that, you remember this is in Sayyidina Uthman's era now. That's after Sayyidina Abu Bakr, after Sayyidina Umar, and after Sayyidina Abu Bakr, after Sayyidina Umar, and now Sayyidina Uthman's era. So Abdullah ibn Zubayr, he tells Sayyidina Uthman the story, and Sayyidina Uthman says, why don't you tell it for the people on the mimbar? And when he tells the people the story on the mimbar, his father, Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, is there. And his father gets hold of him after the khutbah that he gives. And his father tells him that you reminded me what you spoke about now, and the way you spoke from the mimbar, you reminded me of your grandfather, Abu Bakr. He says that, the first time somebody speaks from a mimbar and he reminds me exactly like Sayyidina Abu Bakr. So he had that ways of Sayyidina Abu Bakr, that look out of Sayyidina Abu Bakr, and the way he spoke was like the way of Sayyidina Abu Bakr as well. And obviously, there was a khilafat that he took as well. So Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr, there was a time that Yazid ibn Awwam, I'm not going to go into the politics because that is very deep, alright? But there was a time when Yazid ibn Muawiyah passed away, and then Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr took khilafah, but his khilafah didn't stay for long. His khilafah was established from Makka to al-Mukarramah, and it didn't establish for long. But there's a person that came, and his name was al-Hajjaj al-Thaqafi, al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf al-Thaqafi, and he came, and he actually, came and they surrounded Makkah and they killed many of those people. And after that, they killed Abdullah ibn Zubayr, and they crucified him as well. And that was the end basically of the great Sahabi Abdullah ibn Zubayr. But before he died, he went to his mother, and his mother was who? Asma, bint Abu Bakr, and she was blind at that time. And he went to her, and he told her that people are against me and people want to kill me, and I'm going to stand for the truth. And the mother then asked him, are you on the truth? Are you doing it for dunya things? He said, it's not for dunya things. He said, then stay on the truth, and inshallah. There's a riwayah that actually says his mother gave him advice, and one of the advices his mother gave him is put a long pants on. And the reason for that is, my mother told him, so if you are killed, your awrah won't show. Just think, because think what a mother thinks of a subhanallah. And this is obviously the etiquette that came from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, and it was instilled in Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us from the barakat and the anwar and the rahmat, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant that from our progeny as well must come people like Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr, salihin, people that they are sincere for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They do things sincere for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Just think of somebody that wrote the Quran. Think of somebody that wrote the Quran, and sometimes today, if we read the Quran, he gets all that reward. Think of that. Think of somebody that many places in Africa he conquered. Think of a person like that. You never know, maybe because of that effects of Islam was through that person's hand. So what reward does that people get? The reward are great by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The reward, there's no doubt about the reward. But imagine that people didn't make that effort. Would we have been here? Portions of Africa would not have been Muslim. Although I don't say all Africa, the whole Africa is Muslim, but those portions that are Muslim wouldn't maybe be Muslim today, because of those people's efforts. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those people that also do some effort for Islam. The main thing on the end of the day here is that the lessons that we take is those people did efforts and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewarded them greatly. The thing is, what am I going to do? That on the end of the day, I left something for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for my akhirah. I banked something in the akhirah. I didn't just worry about this dunya, doing and going on with this dunya, but I did something so there might be an effect, and it's not much. Sometimes simple things get involved in certain things that, da'wah ilallah, certain things, small things, get involved in it, And sometimes through that barakah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. The little that we do sometimes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward us because of that efforts that we do. Even not just I'm not talking about just foundations, I'm talking about general anything that calls to Islam. Even masjids, building masjids. You know, there's a beautiful hadith that the Prophet Muhammad says that the one that puts into a masjid as small as I'm not saying it now in my language, but as small as a brick. So if you give a amount of brick that is being put in the masjid, Allah don't give you a brick back in Jannah, but Allah gives you a house back in Jannah. So sometimes small efforts, and it is sincerely for Allah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards a person greatly. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us understanding. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us khayrat and barakat. I ask Ma firstly for maybe not preparing properly, and then secondly I ask Ma also for coming a bit late, and thirdly I will ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the important thing, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through this lecture, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala must instill a bit of that qualities of that person that we spoke about today, Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr, in us. It's no use that we're just speaking about people and we know about them, but we must try and implement from them something from them. Even if it's one thing, try to take something small, and to become a person that is fasting, to become a person that try to concentrate in my salah, and to become a person that they are small things, but try to take something from that personality so that I can implement it in my life by following the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And maybe through that small effort, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us khayrat and barakat. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you for listening to Mercy Calling, the Darut Turath al-Islami podcast. If you liked this podcast, we'd appreciate if you left us a review on iTunes and Google Play. Help Seekers Hub build a global Islamic seminary and spread the light of guidance to millions around the world by supporting us through monthly donations by going to seekershub.org/donate. Your donations are tax deductible in the US and Canada.